Hello guys, welcome to another episode of the Self-Made Mind podcast. My name is Alex O'Keefe.
I'm Craig Billington.
And we've got a very special guest with us today. It's a bit close to home, this one for us. Is one of our good pals. It's Luke Ambler. He is a former professional rugby player. He's a motivational speaker and he's the co-founder of Andy's Man Club. Doing great things is the big man. And he's here with us today. Welcome, Luke.
Hello, boys. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, pal. It's like I say, we're all close friends as it is, and it's a pleasure to have you here with us today, buddy. So yeah, how are you getting on?
Good. Obviously, we're now in lockdown 2. Nothing much has changed for me. Been a bit of a wild year, very different to what I'm used to. Mm-hmm. A lot of positives have come from it, a lot of changes for me personally. Very positive ones, mindset-wise, physically-wise, but there's also been some downsides to the madness as well. But sure, we'll get into some of that today.
Yeah, we'll get into it, mate. But let's obviously, like any good story, let's take it back to the beginning, Luke. And if you can just tell us a bit about your childhood, mate, and where you grew up and what went on.
Go right back to the beginning. My head was that big that I couldn't physically come out of my mum. She wasn't man enough to push me out, so they cut me out of her. That's how we'll go back that early stages. So I've always had a massive head, so that the nice hat that Craig's wearing will not fit my head. I've always had this fridge head, so that's how we go back that early. That's that one. But I will like to go back. I come from a very good background in terms of a loving family, mum, dad, an older brother. Every family's got its complications. I look back at our earliest challenges as a family, which I don't often speak about publicly too much. That my brother had an amputated leg when he was born, like literally within 18 months, which created a lot of pressures for my parents, having a little boy with an artificial leg, and then along came me, bit of an handful. Home life though, overall, I had a very hard-working dad, very hard-working mum. Mum's quite entrepreneurial. Dad's just an all-round, my best mate, and just an all-round good guy. 8 years old, our parents decided to separate. My way of dealing with it was comfort eating. Which meant I got real big, which I went to school, got bullied. A lot of kids will go through that and relate to that, and that was difficult because at the same time as my parents separated, my dad won custody, which going back 20 years ago, a little bit longer now, we're unheard of for a guy to win custody of 2 young boys, but he did. And then my mum had a car crash, which left her with brain damage that she still has to this day. She has a condition now called NEAD, non-epileptic attack disorder, which basically she drops and falls. So she lives in a little disabled bungalow. She's not allowed upstairs because when she falls downstairs, a good chance she can die. She's not allowed a bath because when she falls in bath, a good chance she can drown. She's not allowed carpets because when she falls on carpets, it usually rips all the skin off her arms and face. So that was difficult. And her anxiety got that bad that she didn't leave the house for 4 years, not once. And then the depression got that bad. At some points, she should have been suicidal. So that was difficult. I learned a lot about mental health before it became the buzzword, before people knew too much about it. So. But overall, with a lot of these type of podcasts and interviews and stuff I've done, I probably portray that I had a tough childhood. Where realistically, when I look back now, I had a very, very good childhood. There were just some traumatic stuff that happened within that, but brilliant childhood, brilliant.
Yeah, it sounds like you were kind of forced to mature quite early from some quite traumatic things happening to you. Would you say that's quite correct?
Yeah, I think that's always sort of how I've been. A little bit older than my age, probably most ages. But yeah, just some of the stuff. What other people wouldn't have been dealing with that I wasn't. My brother would have been. Were different. People wouldn't have really got it. Like there were lots. People think there's stigma now around mental health. Back then, 20 years ago, most people thought my mum, when she had a fall-in street, was just pissed up. So, that's why she had her anxiety so bad where she didn't leave the house. Yeah. And then even for us, we didn't always believe it. We thought that maybe stepdad would give her a kick in, and then we were too young. And when we got older, I remember us both, threatening him if it was the case that we'd give him a good hiding and that. Me and my brother. But, it turned out that this is a condition and it's real. And it was tough, seeing your mum like that, someone you admire so much, such a compassionate person as well, having something that she can't control, wasn't nice.
So talking about yourself in terms of like, you mentioned you were bullied and stuff in school and like in high school. Did that affect you mentally in terms of like wanting to, I'm quitting, don't want to do school, don't want to do that? Or was it a driving force in terms of you know what, I'm going to show them and just boom, and just go forward with it? Or
yeah, good question. I've always been prove people wrong. Always, I've always had doubters in every single thing that I've done. Even before playing rugby, before that. So I've always had this thing about proving people wrong. Even so much so that, like when I went to high school, it wasn't probably as bad as it was in primary school. I went to high school, I remember I started going boxing. I used to always come back at cross country. Always a big kid at school, always come back. And then at year 9, I found boxing, fell in love with it, and I lost a shitload of weight and became really fit to a point that, like, I think I came second in our year at cross country, and sort of a bit of an eye opener for everyone then. And then I didn't really ever get any shit then, year 9 onwards, which I think some people who went to high school won't understand the earlier stages. But that then obviously kick-started me rugby really good. I was always fit, and I love fitness now. So, but it's always been prove people wrong, which initially were really good. These last 2 years, problem you have when your motivating factor is proving people wrong is when there's no one else left to prove. When there's no one else left to prove wrong, because then there is no motivating factor. That's the only thing that drives you. And I've had that tough period quite recently, where most people know that if I say I'm going to do something now, I do it. Yeah. So then there is no one to prove wrong. So it's about finding something else inside you then, which is what I'm currently working on.
Yeah.
So in terms of like you say you're proving people wrong, what happens when it fails? So right, I'm going to prove them wrong, and you don't prove them wrong, or you kind of go, all right, failed. Is it kind of just brush it off, or is it kind of just like, you know what, I want to do something else? Or how do you deal with that, in terms of like mindset or stuff?
I don't think I've ever actually failed at anything.
No.
And you could say, well, you got let go from Leeds Rhinos, so that were a failure. You didn't make first team there. But I see things as like every single thing that hadn't quite gone the way I wanted it to, and that's why I call it a failure as such, because we all do fail at things. When I say I've never failed, I don't mean that. I mean the way I view it is everything has led me to exactly what I'm doing right now, and you could go from mum's car crash to not getting in at Leeds Rhinos to what happened next there when I got in a series of downward spirals to Andy dying to even to the coffee shop, right? All these series of things that you might look and go, well, that didn't quite work as you planned, but it's led me to exactly where I am now. And I won't change one thing. Obviously, if I could go back, I'd rather Andy be here. I'd rather my mum not have a car crash, but you can't go back. So the way I look at it is that I can only make the best out of what's happened. So if I want to go and open a new business right now and in a year's time it doesn't work, there'll be lessons I've learned from that business that I'll never do again on another business. Or if there's certain thing I try in my relationship that just doesn't work, I know not to try that again, or as a dad, and there's some stuff there that I'm currently working on. So I think in life it's about like what you learn, whether it's a success or whether it don't go so good. And the famous saying I heard of Will Smith, and it's lived with me all through Andy's Man Club, all through anything that I've done that's been good or bad, is that you don't let success go to your head and you don't let failure go to your heart. And there's a lot of battles with that. When you have a lot of success, it is quite easy to let it go to your head. And when you have a lot of negative happening or negative press and people saying stuff, it can go to your heart. But it's about trying to get that balance back quite quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant, Matt. That's quite a recurring sort of theme we hear with people that we've spoke to already. It's like you've got to have a good relationship with failure, I think, and you've got to kind of welcome it. Not welcome it, but it's inevitable. Like I say, you can't change it, but you can control how you react to it. And I think if we asked you, do you have any regrets? You'd probably say no. Would I be right?
Yeah, none, not one.
Yeah. And that comes to like the failure side of things again. Yeah, good, brilliant, Matt. So after after your childhood then, school time, when did you get into rugby?
8 years old. It was actually like my escape.
Yeah.
You know, a place where rugby were like the one where when you're a fat kid in rugby at that age, you're the man, aren't you? So like that were a place where like I could go be the man and loved it. So that were like my happy place for a number of years. You know, which didn't always come, you know, as I like. Things happened even in youth rugby. But like I've always had this theory like playing rugby that, you know, I would just always work harder than everyone else. So when I lost my weight and went into boxing and them sort of stuff started instilling in me, I just won't bother about being better than anyone. And so I always want to be fitter than anyone because I knew that like at the end of a game or at some point stuff would work out for me. So I used to do like mad stuff that no one knows about. Like I'd go running like Christmas morning, New Year's morning. I'd, you know, like the 5 a.m. stuff that, you know, we've been doing a bit later. That was like a norm for me. So when people decided to run stiff-legged, I got given a plyometrics program off a friend to help me. And every morning I went outside in front of my house at like 13, 14, just working on myself, going boxing every night. I used to go in a big, you know, the industrial bin bags. I used to go in them because I really wanted to just to get this weight off. And I used to tuck it in my shorts. I'd ride to boxing. I'd box for a full hour, ride home. And then when I used to go home, I used to get in bath. And I used to just take it off and just puddle. And then about a litre, 2 to 3 litres of sweat just used to drip off me. So I've never been afraid of hard work. But when you talk about back to failure, what I've learned is that I'm very good at building towards something or getting to exactly where I want to be. But then it's quite easy to stop doing what you did to get there. And I found that a lot in my life. Yeah. And that's still something that I'm working on as we go now, you know, to get that continuous progression, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So is what you're saying there, you have to have a goal to work towards with a kind of end goal, do you mean? Yeah,
well, the problem is when you have an end goal and you do reach where you want to get, you will always realise that it won't always what you thought it'd be. It just didn't, you know. When you're building towards something, that's the fun of it. That's the excitement. But I think like you've always got to be moving the goalpost ever so slightly, just ever so slightly, just so you can strive to be more. So you can strive to, if you have more, whatever that is for you. Because the minute you stop, like everyone else catches you up. Yeah. Like life catches you up. Because life's always moving, but the minute you stop, it's going to get away from you. And that's probably like in rugby and everything, like where I was always the guy that always there, like doing extra sessions. Maybe at points in my rugby career, maybe I stopped doing some of that. I started doing what other people were doing. Well, maybe I wasn't as good as them. So like, you know, I had to do the other stuff. And maybe some of that stuff could have looked back and gone, if you'd just done that slightly different, maybe you just stayed in top league a little bit longer. You know, like even with some businesses, it's been very similar.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. So going away from, you've come out of school, you started obviously a professional career of rugby and stuff like that. But a lot of people don't know that your business is speaking. You're a speaker. A lot of people just think you do just play rugby. But how did you get into that? That's like, you know, how do you get into that? At what point do you go, you know what, I'm just going to stand on stage and I'm going to tell people.
Yeah.
And
where did that come from?
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Two places really, which is, you know, no one ever really asks that, which is good. It's when I left Leeds, I had this real downward spiral. I ended up at Halifax, and I got given a job, or I got a job called business development manager. So I had to go around and meet people. And I once went and met this charity called Upbringing. At the time, I didn't even know what they were about. I just knew that there were a charity that were in schools a lot, and they were called the Hill Council Run Charity. Now called the Better Living Team, and they were just in schools. So I went to meet them to find out how we could get access to kids to get them to our games, and that's what we're about trying to grow the Halifax brand, and that were it. And then when we started talking, I started to get. She must have just thought, the lady at the time, Karen, that I knew what their charity did. And just as we got up to leave, because she told me how many kids they work with in school, I said, "What is it exactly that you do?" And she said, "Oh, I thought you knew that. We get like." Underactive kids active, so basically unhealthy kids. So I went, "Oh, like big kids, like I was." She went, "Oh, were you a big kid?" And I went, "Yeah, let me find a picture." So I showed her a picture, and she went, "My God, like, yeah, we never had a kid as big as you." Like, I had a bit of a joke. She went, "You should come to a talk to kids, like they'd love it." And I was like, "I want to talk about it." And at the time, I thought, you know, there's actually been quite a bit at that time that I couldn't relate to him. You know, I just got back from New Zealand, doing some stuff there, played in a World Cup, and it was like, there were quite a bit. So I went home and pieced it together. And Keith Senior lived with me at the time, and he were on after the dinner circuit, and he had like an iPad where he'd put pictures just to remind him what to speak about. So I thought I'll try that. So I went, delivered this talk, it went down, you know, unbelievably. So they invited me back again to do another one, then do one to parents. And then Frank Mateen ran me one time and said, listen, I'm at this mental health, they were asking me to do a talk at this mental health, I don't know all about it. I know that you've said in past, I think that your mum struggles. Can you come do a talk? So I was sat in Frankie Benny's having breakfast with Lisa, and I'm like, yeah, I had no idea what to do. So I just rocked up. As soon as I got there, they were waiting. They gave me a microphone, and I just talked about like, what it's like having a mum with mental illness. This was like maybe 8 years ago, before anyone were doing this stuff at all. Again, went down like an house on fire, and then I opened a gym really weirdly. And as I opened this gym, this what I mean about stars aligning. We delivered this fitness course to these kids who were disengaged, these young people. And at the end, the speaker didn't turn up to hand the certificates out. And because I'd done a few of these gigs, my mate, Robbo, when the course provider says, oh, we've got no one to do a talk, can't want to use do it, you both play rugby. Robbo were like, no, not me. Luke does it all the time now. Get him up. Yeah. I'm like, no. But quite a bit of parents were coming. These were like not even like young people, 16 and 24-year-old. So I got up, did this talk again, just nailed it in, and I thought, whoa, wait, I can do it to primary school kids, I can do it to these kids. And then I ended up asking to become a fellow of this charity. So I became like a figurehead for this charity called Braefair Trust. And then it just sort of went from there. I got invited to do more gigs. And then I just fell in love with doing it more than rugby. So I'd learn about it. So you've seen my book collection already. I'd learn about the art of communication and doing talks. I'd watch other speakers, and I'd find bits that I liked, styles that I liked, styles that I didn't like. And I found my own, like what I wanted to do, where I wanted to mix humour, a lot of humour with reality, like real life stories that are quite, you know, brutal for people to listen to, but then mixed with something that's hilarious. And it just sort of like built from there to, you know, next minute I've been to Madrid and done it. I've been to Belgium. I've been all over UK and still continue to do it and love it. You know, it lights a fire in me that nothing else does. It's just beyond anything. You know, I started doing it for free, and you know, even now, even though it's a good business that I have, it's still something that anytime I get asked to go to a school who I know might not have much of a budget, I'll do it for free. And depending on how well I'm doing work-wise, I'll do a lot of free gigs for people just to help them out, because I enjoy it. I just love the process of it. It's just it's probably like you two playing football. It's just it does something for me that rugby never did.
Yeah. So were you still playing rugby at this point then? You know, when you first started speaking?
Yeah, obviously playing at Leeds, you do a lot of like media stuff. So there was stuff in there that you do. You go around schools and you do a little type of presentations. But my own personal speaking, I was still playing rugby for a number of years, like doing it alongside. You know, I didn't really turn it into a business until like 2 years after being at Halifax. I joined Halifax 2012, so 2014 I started that. The confusion people get for me is that because Andy's Man Club's so big, what we've built there is that it's the same thing. You know, Andy's Man Club, Andy didn't die till 2016. I was doing a lot of the stuff I'm already doing within mindset, well-being, long before Andy's Man Club. And it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg for a lot of people. But without the mindset I built from the struggles I've been through, you know, which we'll go into, like it built this mindset, this guy who's here now, to have this what's next mentality that I built, that I live my whole life by now. And that's where it all went for. So, you know, that started first, and it was just, that's where the journey began, even while playing rugby.
Brilliant. So, can you tell us about when rugby came to an end for you then, and how, you know, why you made the decision to stop playing? Yeah,
so when I was at Leeds, I remember sat in Leeds changing room, surrounded by the world's best players, some of the world's best players, like Jamie Peacock, Kevin Sinfield. And maybe I never felt that I deserved to be there, because it was far. All I ever dreamed of was seeing Ambler on TV, my shirt, like my dream. And I think sometimes like the law of attraction's a weird thing, because you can put it out there and then you can get it. But like, that's all I ever dreamed, really. So like when I get to Leeds, which were far beyond my expectations, and I ended up playing for Leeds first team with Ambler on the TV, you know, I probably never readjusted my goals to like, now I want to hit 50 games or I want to hit 100 games. It was just like, I was sort of happy that were it. Then went to London. That were an experience, going at 20-year-old, moving away from your family, living in a house with a lot of lads you don't know. You know, your missus coming down every other month or something. Like, it was just my family tried to come down, but you just isolated away. That was difficult. A real difficult year for me. That it was probably the worst move, really, like that I could have made in my rugby career. Yeah. For some people, it's the best. But going down there, do you know what? It set me up in a lot of different ways. I became a man. You know, I managed to buy an house when I came back, and there were a lot of good stuff that happened. But in terms of like being down there, not with the same calibre of players that Leeds was. It would just, I should have stayed at Leeds. We brought a new manager in. It all changed. So when Leeds let me go, when I got back, you know, off the spur of a moment, it was just like my world had crumbled. Started comfort eating again, like being a kid. Started going out drinking. My missus had left me. You know, I'd sleeping around, and then, you know, one night I ended up exploding. Got in a big fight, beat up a lot of doormen, smashed up, you know, Liquid nightclub in Halifax, door outside, and ended up finding myself sat in a police cell. And although, like, you know, it wasn't any further than that, that was my rock bottom, because I have a side of my family that have been in a lot of trouble. And my dad's completely opposite of that. I've got a very good role model in my dad, who never went down route with a lot of his family. Doesn't really drink, never gambled. Not that he's all wrong with his stuff, but he's never done drugs. Like, he's very clean cut, my dad. And that was like my idol. And then I felt like I'd let him down. You know, I was really upset when I had to ring him and say, listen, I'm messed up here. And then, like, at that point, I thought my rugby career might have been over. So I'd only just signed at Halifax. No, I'd been at Halifax a year. My form was terrible. I ballooned in size. My coach had already said, I think I got lucky, I had a 1 year deal. He said, another year's deal at the end of that. He said, like, you won't be getting in team. But then I had that thing in me, what I told you all about earlier, about proving people wrong. The minute he said to me, you'll be lucky if you're on bench, I knew what I had to do. And that following year, I went on to have the best year I'd ever had. Ever. Like, I was untouchable that year. I think I got in team at year in that competition, you know, fans player at year, one try away from being Terry Fogarty's all-time top, you know, props try scorer. I were untouchable. I was fittest I've ever been. And then the year after that, a new coach came in. And he was a good guy, Rich. It just didn't work for me. I was probably too well in at the club. You know, like, I was Mr. Facts. You know, like, you know, imagine this, that a new coach comes in and I'm best mates with CEO and I'm showing coach around where we're going to train, and they ended up training at my gym. So the Halifax team, which I were part of, trained at my gym with a deal that I'd done with club. It were all a little bit mad, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So few years it was touch and go, but the year before Andy died, again, proved people wrong. That coach, because I was such a good player the year before with all this, I had a bit of hype about me, and he sort of liked his mind games and probably messed with me a bit. The year after that, after I had a real bad knee injury, I wanted to prove him wrong. I started the year like an house on fire, then Andy died, and it just changed it all for me. It changed what I believed that I wanted to do in life. It changed, like, my own values. It just changed how I felt about rugby and felt about life and what, you know, impacting people and all that other type of stuff. So yeah, the defining moment for me quitting rugby was probably Andy dying. I didn't realise it at the time, but that was definitely one of the defining factors of me quitting rugby.
Right.
Nice.
And then obviously Andy's Man Club is born.
Yeah.
Not long after that, is that right? Is it? Did you start Andy's Man Club straight after Andy passed away, or?
Yeah, so Andy died in the April 2016, and it were horrendous, you know, going through that period. You know, if anyone's ever lost him, was suicide, they'll better relate. But obviously, I'd never had it. I didn't really understand it. But I always say, you know, tell my little boy, his favourite uncle had died, and hearing the screech will live with me forever. You know, I'm going to go tell, you know, his family members, ringing his best friends who were just screaming, his cousins screaming at him straight in trap. Because obviously, I was brother-in-law. You know, I'm sort of like outside that immediate family. I'm not his best mate. I'm not his brother. I'm not my son, any of that stuff. So you still feel it because you're close to him, but you don't, you know, you're not seen as feeling it as much as everyone else, which rightly so, probably it wouldn't have been as thing for me. But seeing your whole family broken is not nice. Like, everyone around you just in absolute bits. You know, at the time we had a 18-month-old I was going 2-year-old, so we had Aubrey, so then I would try to look after her and Alfie while Lisa were grieving, and it was just a mad experience. But what got it for me is that because Andy didn't talk about it, I said that something had to be done, so I couldn't have another family going through what we've been through. And I approached my mother-in-law, Elaine, and she were up for it. She said, "Yeah, let's start something." And then one day I were in engine room where Craig used to work, and I was just like, I do it now, and I just started typing. I never forget, I was sat near a window, just started typing on my thing, didn't check what I'd sent, just went boom. Next minute it blew up. Loads of people were like, want to get involved with this, want to help. It's such a good idea. Just getting these guys talking. I had a business at the time, a unit up in Ovingdon. I just invite people there. I didn't know what direction, what to go, but I knew that I wanted it, what the vision was. It was not quite, the vision wasn't quite as big as what's turned out. Or where it's going to go now. The vision is frightening now where it is now.
What was the vision, Luke? What was the vision when you first started?
Just literally, the vision then was to have this group in Halifax where men would come, and instead of going and killing themselves, they'd come there and just talk. But the idea then was that we'd have to play sports, we'd have to use some of the stuff I was teaching at the time to get guys talking. And just by like the stars aligning the first night of people that came, and I had this sponge ball. And you might see around our office, we have a lot of sponge balls because that's what we give out now. Because that night I was nervous, didn't know how to start, and I had this sponge ball, and this old chap, Terry, says, "Right, we're ready or what?" And he come to sort of help out. "We're ready, kid." And he said, and I said, "Yeah." So I told a bit of my story, and he said, chuck me the ball. So I chucked him the ball, and he offloaded about losing his son, not to suicide, but to something else. And it was a bit like, whoa, so he threw the ball to someone else. And that guy then was like, fuck, I've got to talk now. So he opened up about how, like, you know, I probably won't be here and what struggles he was going through. And beautiful thing is that very guy who the ball went to next, Oliver, came on that door first night, then ended up becoming our number one longest standing facilitator, stayed with the organisation 4 years, and now just stepped into a job which he's absolutely thriving in, which is a project development champion. So, you know, the success stories are in Andy's Man Club. You know, there's hundreds, we could go through thousands, but his is the one that always stands out to me because you took a guy there who rock bottom, broke up his missus, were out of work, you know, so then getting back into his job, going back to work, off sick, excelling in work, moving up the ladder at work, continuing to facilitate and helping other guys, and then now being one of our main men in the office. It's a proud moment to look back on. And I don't ever really look back on Andy's Man Club as anything I'm proud of. You know, you guys are sat in the Andy's Man Club office with probably about 8 trophies to your left, none of which mean anything to me at all. Never have. Nice that we get shit like that. But for me, it's stories like Ollie's and seeing someone's life really change that is what makes me tick.
So I'm just going to delve into this a little bit. Like, I know we're talking mindset and stuff like that, but I just want to ask a question a little bit on the younger generation of this country. So school kids, even like kids my age, you know, Oliver is 8 years old. And I just think, how is it, could you possibly go into that sort of age group and get them to talk? Because I feel like a lot of young men, a lot of young boys, a lot of young girls as well struggle, because I did as a child, struggle to get their emotions out and talk. Like, and I have it sometimes with my son, and it's like, why, what are you getting upset for? Just talk to me. But I feel like, is there something you've ever thought about doing in that sort of area? Just going into schools. And I know you do talk, but I mean just with kids, like.
That's what that I do. So obviously, without plugging it, I've brought out the BU Kids Journal, which is a tool to basically start those conversations, either with teacher and kids. Because all that journal is really is questions that a parent can sit down and ask the kids. And it's done in the same sort of way that I built Andy's Man Club. A series of simple questions that spark conversations. So, for example, you go to Andy's Man Club and the first question, you go in there that you're not going to talk, you're just going to listen. And the first question is, how's your week been? It's a question that anyone's willing to answer, no matter how bad the head's at. So people always answer, and it's like, same with the kids' journal, I don't have any on me here, but like some of the questions like, who did you play with today? What did you do?
What is that called? What's your journal called again?
The EU Kids Journal.
Yeah.
Right.
And these type of simple questions spark conversation. But what I personally do, so I'm in a primary school next week, and we'll do a series of emotional well-being workshops where we get the kids to talk, but not in the same way as Annie's Man Club, but like learning about their emotions and what stuff they can do to positively impact them when they're feeling a little bit sad, or and identify people they can talk to. And that's like built around the program, the BU program, which is things like who's in your hives. It's all based around the bee. Who's in your hive? What's your feel good cloud activities? And there's loads of little stuff in there. Little treats for the honeypots. But I'm already actively working with kids a lot, but I do see a cycle changing in a good sense, because I think what happened is our dads were that generation that didn't talk, which then some of that stuff went on to us, but we're all starting to open up more, which means these kids below us, probably some of them are talking too much, right? Because, not as a whole, these occasions, say like about your son, maybe where he doesn't talk. And when I say about talking too much, people get a little bit maybe offended by that. But like, there comes a point in anyone's cycle where they've got to go from talking to action. So they've got to go from, I'm feeling this way, I've talked about it, now I need to do something about it, so I'll get another feeling. It's like 3 stages. Feel away, I'll talk about it, I'll take an action, which will make me feel a different way again, 4 stages, right? But there's 2 types of people. There's some people who will just talk and talk and talk about how they feel, never take another action, which never changes the way they feel. So it is changing. It is changing, definitely. But we're now creating other issues for kids. Too much technology, too much, early interaction on social media. There's a lot of stuff there that need identifying fast. But I think that'll take care of itself eventually. I think it'll implode, in my opinion.
Yeah. Brilliant. So, can you tell us where we're up to today, Luke, with Andy's Man Club, and just what size we're at today and kind of what everyone's achieved? Yeah,
so pre-lockdown we just hit 997 men on a singular night, which is like, a lot of men, 1,000 men. If you lined 1,000 men up of all different shapes, sizes, different backgrounds, some will be very, very... that's what's nice when I was just thinking about it. I did a video with Lad Bible where I said, Andy's Man Club's friend, whether you're chief operating director of a multinational company or you're currently homeless, Andy's Man Club doesn't discriminate. And that literally is Andy's Man Club. I could get 1,000 men lined on a street, and there'll be guys there who are on over 100 grand a year, and some guys who are currently homeless. When they're in that room together, there's no ego. They're just non-judgmental guys who are all going through their own struggles, but we'll just go in there and talk. So we're up to 997. Then we had COVID, which every organisation had to adapt. We were ahead of the game. We already transitioned straight onto online. So we had a very small gap between closing our doors and getting straight back online. We're up to 4 staff. We're currently recruiting 2 more. We're going to review that in March. We'll probably take on an additional 2. And we have over 200 regular active volunteers. So in terms of size, it's quite a big organisation now. And growing. We're nowhere near the size of some of the other suicide prevention charities, but in terms of impact, I don't think there's many doing as much as us. I'd say maybe Samaritans would be the only one who has as big impact as Andy's Man Club right now. Yeah. And certainly, other than it, the AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't think there's a bigger peer support network out there. Yeah. I think it's the biggest male mental health movement on the planet right now.
Yeah. Do you ever kind of take a bit of a step back and just think, just have a look at it for a second at what you've achieved and just think, wow, that's
never
amazing.
Weirdly.
Why do you think that? Why do you think you'd not done that?
Because it's such a big job to do. At the minute, and I have this with me staff and trustees and anyone else who's part of the family, that we've won an award on a Saturday night. And on Sunday, I said, well, we're back to work tomorrow. We're back in the office Monday. And it's not like I don't celebrate it, but like life still needs saving again Monday. So like, it's all nice that you've won an award and it's all pats on back. It's back to work Monday. And I'll give you a recent example. We've struggled like everyone in COVID. We've managed to get all 36 clubs open bar one because they're not comfortable at minute opening. So the talk all the way through this last few weeks has been, getting clubs open. That's been a chat in our weekly Monday meeting. So I went in last week and said, awesome work, everyone, pat on backs and all that. Now that's gone. Pat on backs have gone because we've got them all open. What's next? What new clubs have we got on the horizon? What's the next steps? How do we get better? How do we help more people? Yeah. And that's where I've got, as leader of this organisation, got to continue to see forward. So, I've done some mad stuff, like absolutely mad stuff, but I'll give you where my life's at. Like when you talk about doing take a step back. I once were very fortunate enough to get invited to go meet Prince Charles at his house, right? A kid from up in Ovingdon, single parent background, I had no right to be there in my eyes, right? And I got in there and it was unbelievable. Got to speak to him. Everyone there were buzzing about what we'd done with It's Okay to Talk, the big global movement. And it were amazing. And I started to think, with some of the people I was speaking, they were friends of the Royals and they were blown away by me. And I'm thinking, maybe I need to live my life differently. And I'll never forget, I got a train home and it had blown up on social media. Everyone was buzzing with the fact I'd been to see Prince Charles and all this other shit. And I got back to school run to get the kids and managed to get back in time the day after. And my missus texted me saying, don't forget the mince for shepherd's pie. And I'll never forget that. And it was like, boom, crash back to reality. This is real life. Mm. And from that moment, no matter what award we've won, no matter how big things have got, no matter whether we've done Sky News Live, whether we've done Lad Bible, whatever we've done, nothing really. Like, I just know that an hour from now, tomorrow, we're just back to getting the job done. Yeah. And it never changes. It never changes. And I'm not saying like I come in here with like a whip. Like if you ask people, most people don't get to see the real me. No. Like I come in here and just have continuous banter and like have laughs with staff, and it's just funny. Like they'll say to me sometimes, "Can you go now? Like we don't get all done when you're here." Like because it is a family for me. That's what it is down here. It's a family, and I don't ever want to lose that. But at the same time, like standards are driven because lives need to be saved.
Yeah, definitely. But while we're just on that mental health sort of section there, Luke, I just wanted to kind of put you in a bit of a scenario. So I don't know if you're aware, but recently there were a young lad from Manchester City, Jeremy Whiston. Did you hear about him?
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously he played for the club from when he was 13 years old. Got released, I think, when he was 17, 18. And he ends up, taking his own life, which were obviously a disaster. Just want to kind of put you in a scenario. So we go back in time and we see this young lad. He's just been released. He's walking out of the training ground at Man City. He's got his head down. He thinks it's there's no future for him there. If you could just kind of put your arm around him for a couple of minutes, what kind of words would you say to him?
It's all going to be all right.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is people make, and I know the scenario there, the way that it got reported in the media that Man City lets the young man go and he killed himself 2 years after he takes his life. Mm. So there's something that's happened within 2 years that might not even be football related. There's nothing to say that was definitely football related. There could have been a relationship breakdown. There could have been a series of trauma from years ago. But it's easy to piece people to think what they thought happened. But if we are going on the scenario that it was to do with football, like that lad needed his arm around him a lot long before, as everyone else does, because not everyone is going to get what they wish for. Like they're not. Like that's reality of life. Yeah. But like you can still make the best of the situations. Like just because you don't quite become number one at Man City or get to play first team at Man City, there's hundreds of opportunities out there. And I think where people go wrong for me, where it's getting let go from rugby when they start to struggle, or football or whatever it may be, is people don't understand the amount of skill sets they've learned being in that type of environment, the type of mindsets they've built, that if applied right, they can put into any other industry. But it's like, I have this goal, don't quite work out, so my life's over. And that's a scenario for a lot of people, but it's not the truth. Like, it's just not the truth. Like, you can redirect your focus and edge at any point. And I know you might not quite have got the goal you wanted. It might be harsh. It might be, I've been there, like when the Leeds Rhinos coach at the time let me go, and it was difficult. I blamed him for years for like what happened to me next and going through my downward spiral. But like, I also thank him now, because if he wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't be sat here now. doing, with the organisation that we've got, because it wouldn't have materialised, because I would have had no interest in this stuff. But it is such a simple thing about everything's going to be all right. And at the time, he wouldn't have believed that. But if it stuck around and seen that everything he thought were permanent is actually only temporary. Yeah. Too many people make a permanent decision based on temporary problems, and it's heartbreaking.
Definitely. Yeah, we've just got to make people aware that it's not the final destination. Whenever we get a setback or it doesn't quite go how we planned, it's not the final destination. It's just a part of the story. And like you say, I think we were talking before this, and you were talking about when someone throws a wall up. Can you just tell us about that little analogy you're talking about?
Yeah, David Goggins talked about it long before David Goggins was about when you're running like life. Life throws walls at you when you start having those voices in your head, that internal dialogue that says, stay in bed because it's warm, or when you're running, it's like you're tired now, your legs are getting heavy, this is where you need to stop. And you have two options: you either let that voice win and you go home, or you say to yourself, no, actually, I'm going to push on a little bit further. And usually when you push on a little bit further, whatever it is you're doing, right, you'll find that wall then moves, and it's 2 kilometres down the road, or it's a year down the road in your business, or it's a next financial gap, or it's your next staff member, or whatever it may be that's going to be your next challenge. But as long as you learn to control that internal dialogue and you take that right step to push on, nothing can beat you, man.
True.
Yeah.
There's an example of that from a couple of days ago with me and yourself, wasn't there, Luca?
Yes. The internal dialogue got you, didn't it? You were in your nice warm bed on a Sunday morning, 7 o'clock, alarm goes off, ready to go, and you realise, actually, you know what, there might be a slight twinge in my body, which, as a rugby player and even a footballer, you'll never play a game at 100% ever. Ever. There's always something wrong. So for someone like yourself, then that internal dialogue can get the better of you. It can say, well, actually, you've got a bit of a twinge, you've got this coming up, and then it's like, it is warm in bed. Well, actually, if I do lay in bed, and I do rest, maybe I'll be better tomorrow. And then, tomorrow doesn't actually come, does it? And then before you know it, internal dialogue wins on a load of different things. For me, discipline is doing what you said you'd do, even when you don't feel like it. Yeah. That's what my life motto is right now. Yeah. Do what you said you'd do, even when you don't feel like it. It's easy to do anything when you're motivated. It's easy to go on a 5K. It's easy for us now to get motivated, get pumped up and go on a 5K run now. What ain't easy is us to be motivated now and talk about doing a 5K run at 5 a.m. in the morning, and then see how many people turn up when you are in your nice warm bed, it has got cold, it's freezing outside, it's pissing down, and you know that actually, you know what? But I tell you now, what lies out there, right, no matter how fast you go, the moment you get back after you've beat that internal dialogue is just one little margin towards success. Right? And then you could go deep on this one and say, well, what is success? Right? For me, it's a self-disciplined mind. Right? That's just one element. There's a variety of elements to success. But one would be a self-disciplined mind. And again, it's doing what you said you do even when you don't feel like it. Those motivating factors, when they are there, still turning up no matter what. So my pet hate with you that day was if you'd have pulled out on the day, which you didn't. You didn't, because, and I knew you've got the dog in you, which is why when I said to you, I know you've got the dog in you. Yeah. And you turned up, you didn't say up to anyone, you turned up, and you absolutely blew out of water in half marathon in a very, very good time. Yeah. And you thanked yourself for doing it, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's it. Like you say, it comes down to small margins, doesn't it? And if I'd have stayed in bed and I wouldn't have done a half marathon that day, that's the furthest I've ever run in my life. So it's just like them really small margins and just beating that internal dialogue and just thinking, you know what, I've said I'm going to do this, so I'm going to do it. And
so Craig,
I think one of you called it
tomorrow. Am I going to come on a run tomorrow?
Morning, 5:30 a.m. 8K.
On camera. This is the thing. I was just thinking about it then, The last couple of days, my problem is the last couple of days I've been getting into my other half. She's wanting to get into fitness, so she's like, I'll only do it if you help me. So I'm like, all right, fine, that's fine. So the last 2 days we went to the Scammon Steps. We did that. First time I've ever seen her run ever. It was amazing. It was like, this is awesome. And then yesterday and this morning we did the exact same thing. We got up and we went on a run. We did 5K. And she wants to do the same again because she's off this week. She wants to do it all every morning. So I'm just like, right, that's fine. I'll do it with you. So that's my problem tomorrow. You're asking me to go at 5:30, and I'm like, well, I could do that, or I could stay in bed and then I'll go with her later on.
my mentality would be for you, if I'm in your shoes, the last 2 days probably haven't been as hard as you, because your fit hasn't been as hard. No. So you come with us tomorrow, and then your room with her is more recovery.
Bubble.
I know. I've missed a session. I've missed a session tonight with the football lads. So I'm thinking about doing the exact same.
You owe it. So let's see, because what you say now will be different to how you feel when that alarm goes off at 5:10 in the morning.
Yeah.
So this will be a good marker for when you do your next podcast to say whether you came or not. Yeah. Or you passed your test. So you coming?
Well, let's do it. Let's go it.
Yes, he's on with Dale doing.
There you go.
And that there, people, is called the art of persuasion or peer pressure.
Peer pressure.
Peer pressure.
Peer pressure. As long as you're doing peer pressure to put someone to do something good for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, peer pressure to do something bad.
Yeah. Well,
right.
Going back to what we were talking about then, like the 5K, the whole 5K thing, we've set up beginning of this lockdown, I set up a little WhatsApp group and a little challenge for people, and it wasn't nothing to go and break any records. It was kind of just a little casual, basically it were a casual little thing to get me motivated back into fitness and running. And I said, so let's do 5K every day. Let's just do it. No pressure on times, no pressure on running. Mm-hmm. And the last 4 times I've stood at my door and I've gone, I don't want to do this. Literally don't want to do it. And then I get 3 minutes in and I'm like, now I'm flying. That's it. And each time I think I've taken 20, 30 seconds off each 5K.
Yeah.
So I get to end of it and I'm like, yes, I feel great. I feel awesome.
That's it. And it's that simple.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like, let's do it. Yeah. Tomorrow I'm in, and then we'll go from there. See how I feel.
Love that.
Luke, just tell us about, before we get off, mate. I know you've got some other things going on in the background, pal. Tell us about Mind Tribe and the other things in that category.
Yeah, I've always got some on the go, but the Mind Tribe came about because I wanted to step away from mental health for a little bit and give people to be part of a tribe, my inner circle, and help them develop a series of daily habits. Mm-hmm. So, you know, they're part of a tribe now where there's an app, there's a social section of that. It's all private, where I give them daily little challenges, and there's also a structure for how they should live their life with. Just simple stuff like moving for 20 minutes every day, reflecting for 20 minutes every day. And they're really simple, and learning for 20 minutes every day. 3, key foundations for what the whole program is built on. I give them different tips and techniques on how to do that. Then we have a weekly group coaching accountability session. So if we were doing one, it'd be like, right, for example, Sunday night when we had it, Craig, did you do your run you said you were going to do? So this week we've leveled it up because they've all had to write down yesterday morning what they will achieve this week. So Sunday, I'll bring all that up to them all. And it's keeping people accountable. Most people just struggle with that accountability. That's why, like Craig setting his challenge, the reason why he's done his 5K every day is because he knows he's accountable to other people, which is why, like, I love creating groups of people doing stuff, where it'll be going to Scammon Steps, a group for that, where we're going biking, where we're going running like we do. Like, a lot of groups, because there's a saying that when you feel motivated to do something, you've got to take action then and there. So by me telling you that I'll see you at 5:30, I now can't back out of that. Because it's not me against me anymore. You know, I'm letting you down, because if you turn up to a location we said and you're on your own, that's my poor character. So I think that's what my tribe's about. It's about people saying what they're going to do and then following it through. And people are getting a lot of good benefits from that.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. Like I say, it comes down to these really powerful daily habits. Because have you read a book called The Miracle Morning?
I've got it in there on my to-do list. It's in my bookshelf.
I'd have thought you'd have already read that, to be fair, because a lot of it's what you've set up in Mind Tribe. It's like, you know, basically it tells you to get up an hour earlier every day and get them steps in before you start your day. So your movement, self-development, and just like a bit of meditation as well. But yeah, there's a lot of power in the daily habits, I think, rather than all going for like a big goal, you kind of break it down into your daily habits, I think. So
I think everyone wants to just climb Kilimanjaro straight away rather than thinking, actually, let's just walk a K today. Let's walk 2K tomorrow and slowly build it. And then actually find that by doing the simple little stuff every single day, the big picture ends up coming to fruition anyway.
Definitely. Yeah. Wicked. All right, big man.
Yeah.
Any questions there, mate?
No. I just, like a lot of people these days are quick, like you say, with social media and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, whatever you want to say, quick to throw out I call them keyboard warriors, throw out a comment or something like that. And everybody's got a comment about Luke Ambler because obviously he's a big man around Halifax. And you know, I had the pleasure of sitting down with you last year and having a lot of meetings, and we set up a business together. All right, it didn't work out how we planned it, but, you know, I created a great friend in Luke. And I just want to say, I want people to know who are listening, who are going to listen to this and stuff like that. I want you to tell them, how much do you earn from Andy's Man Club?
Oh, not a penny. It cost me a fortune.
It blows my mind, this. A lot of people say he earns loads from it. He's got a load of money from Andy's Man Club. And I honestly, that's the one thing I like to tell people, that he earns nothing, absolutely nothing. He does it out of the love of Andy first and foremost, and his family, but also just the love of people, and that's what I love about Andy's Man Club and stuff like that. So
yeah. I think the mad one, there's a couple of bits just to touch on before we go, is when people don't understand something. Let's go back to keyboard warriors for a second. So you get the keyboard warriors initially, and you know, keyboard warriors, I think there is some people who sit in weird little bedrooms and just type shit all day. There is them ones. But then I think there's also people who aren't meaning to be keyboard warriors, who think like I'd never go up in a pub. Like, if I heard you two talking in a pub and, you know, one of you said something to other, I'd never come up and just give you my opinion on yourself, right? You two could be talking about football and I could come and go, well, you know, your team's shit and you're a shit supporter, right? It just wouldn't happen unless you're in that group of people having banter. Like, it's just not happening, where people are really vicious now to like call people out on stuff. Like, oh, I don't like, you know, I don't, your t-shirt, like, who do you think you are wearing, Fred Perry? Like, it just don't make sense. A lot of the time, this stuff don't make sense. But what happens is people make what I call throwaway comments, that they think, oh, that's what they think in that moment, I'll throw it out there. But they don't realise the impact that can have. So someone saying he makes a lot of money from Andy's Man Club, it's just a throwaway comment. That person then probably carries on watching EastEnders. Don't even think about it. Didn't mean to be malicious. Just said it because that's what they felt in the moment. But when you do something for such a genuine reason and you've made it clear, my life would be easy if I just signed up and I'm just chief exec now of Andy's Man Club. It's easy, right? Because I do exactly what I'm doing now in Andy's Man Club. I don't have all the other stresses of the other business there. I run this organisation. It would get me 10 times more because there'll be even more. But like, I don't want to work for this thing. I don't want to work for it. And then the flip side is if anyone understands charity, is like you're accountable to not only the charity commission, but also to Companies House. So anyone can go online right now and download our company documents and then see. Where it's happened for me is where you think like I've never shied away from, but I never ever publicly bragged either that I have done all right for myself away from Andy's Man Club. My missus does very well for herself, and we live a very simple life. Like, we've never bought the big house, like where we've been under a lot of pressure. Like, we live quite a simple life. We like going holidays. You know, she's got herself a nice car, we have a camper van. But other than that, like, we're not like showboaters. Like, I wear 2 for $12 River Island t-shirts. That's it. Like, so people maybe get a perception maybe sometimes of maybe something I've got, and they put 2 and 2 together and make 5. But like, people never look at someone's deeper story. You know, like the business we built for Lisa right next to you, or the coffee shop that we did, you know, which is a story in itself, you know. And there's a theory I've got, and I have this, whether me and Lisa break up tomorrow, my sister did a little bit of something with her, is that my theory in life is if I leave everyone better than I found them, that's all that matters to me. So a goal of mine, a dream of mine was to have a coffee shop, right? And I found the best person possible in this town to do that with, which was you, right? The only thing I never did with that business was ever, and it's the only thing I've ever done that wasn't truly calculated, right? So any business I ever do or any move I ever make, people think I'm impulsive, but I'm calculated impulsive. So, and I'll get into psychology here. So I always I seem like I've made an impulsive decision, but I always look at the numbers or the downside. With the coffee shop, I never did that. The business model we did, we're never like, if this goes wrong, there's still that to cover it. It were like, this goes wrong, it's on us, right? And I never realised at the time the amount of work that would have to go into it. So I started like letting a load of other areas go. And I probably didn't bring my best self to the party in the end up. Probably came across negative at times. And I called it being realistic. Because it was difficult. You know, you're running a business with someone else. You both maybe have different ideologies. But yet we never clashed. We were always on it together. And it was like one in all in mentality. But then it's just like all the stuff with like you have staff. And they're just, the staff, like, you know, as amazing as they are, and some of them were, it was just different to what I was used to. Like, so like for me, like I run a charity where these people are obviously salaried, it's different, right? But like every one of them has been a volunteer before they started. And like every one of them, if the doors close tomorrow and no money comes in and we can't pay them, I guarantee, and I bet my left nut on it, that if they all went and got other jobs, they'd still come back and volunteer. So I'm working with an organisation where everyone would die for the cause. And I don't mean literally, but like they would give anything for the cause. So when you're going up in another business and it's literally just about it's just a job for people, but yeah, it's your dream, you know, one of my dreams. It's different because you're employing people to see that dream. And when lockdown came, it wasn't the coffee shop that why I sought out. Like my whole life at that time, I realised was absolutely chaotic. Like, not only did I have a coffee shop, I had BU journals, I had a camper van I'd just done. So opened a coffee shop, I opened Lisa Roberts Aesthetics clinic while sorting out all the tenancies for that. Then me and you had our coffee shop, which took up way more time than it were meant to, probably not even because it needed to, just because of the way I work. I'm a control freak, right? Then I had Andy's Man Club, which were growing. We just hit 1,000 men at that point, which brought its own challenges with it, you know. And then I also had my own speaking business and training business. So I'm travelling from prison to prison. My kids don't like me. My missus never comes near me because I'm just the busiest man most people would ever meet. But yeah, I seem to just find time to be at all the places that I don't need to be. Yeah. And when lockdown happened, it was like, boom, everything stopped. And for the first time in my life, it was just like, and I actually said to my mum, sat in coffee shop one day, just before lockdown, just before COVID happened, I said, Mum, do you know what, I just wish, I don't want to lose anything, but I just wish I could stop life for 3 months. She said, what? I just said, I wish I could stop it. I wish I could just stop now. So I don't lose anything because I still want to do it all, but 3 months just there to stop and just grabbing my feet. And obviously that happened. We call it law of attraction. I didn't bring on COVID, right? But lockdown happened.
Like were you, were it?
Yeah, my fault. I sat at home and I started getting good relationships with my kids. You know, my missus became closer. I started becoming more about like what she was doing up in her build-up. So when lockdown ended, which never did for me, I helped her get back started. She started doing really well. And for me, it was like, I told the coffee shop we'd come up with a deal because realistically, it wasn't that I didn't want to change. It was that I couldn't take on any more at the time, even though I believed I could. And I still deep down know in my head that I probably could continue, but it wouldn't have been a good path. I put on more weight than I ever put on. Like I was sloppy. My habits were sloppy. My standards were sloppy. Like everything I was going on and preaching, I don't believe I was truly practicing. Where now, like being on a podcast like this, like any advice I'm giving, I practice. Anyone in Mind Tribe can't come on and not know that I go out and get it. So I don't ever miss a 5:30 a.m. session if I say I'm going to be there. Like I'll run an ultra marathon before I end this year. I said that I will come out of this whole thing the happiest, healthiest and wealthiest I'll finish this year in the 3 strongest ways possible. And you can define wealth however you want, right? However anyone wants. But I know that my kids judge me now, view me now 10 times better than they did going into lockdown without me even realising. I do school run every single day. I have my baby 3-4 times a week, like with me full time. Like before that was stressful to have with me full time because I was trying to juggle doing all these stuff. Where now, like success to me now is a very different thing. I'm in a weird space right now because I've gone from being this real busy guy to someone who is like, I have time. Like my biggest thing I have now, which I never had before, is I have a lot of time on my hands. I handpick what I want to do. I'm working a lot smarter now than harder. So like, I'm living Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week right now. And this is the interesting thing. If I asked you would you like to strive for a life like that where it's freedom? Most people would say yes. But then there's a dark side to genius, because anything overexposed, it can become detrimental. Having all that time with my daughter now can become just the norm. So like, you might, like, you know, you, Craig, probably work and then look forward to getting those 2 hours with your kids at night. Like, I've been with my daughter from 7 a.m. this morning until 7 o'clock tonight before I came here. So like, do you know what I'm saying? So like, this is where it becomes what I'm trying to work out now. Is like where you apply your energy, like, and how you make sure that you're still master of certain things, not jack of all trades again, but you still become the master of certain areas, and just really streamlining being a dad, being a partner, being a businessman, being a philanthropist, being a chair of Andy's Man Club, and making sure that those 5-6 key areas of my life all ultimately make me the best human being I can possibly be. Because 100 years from now, we're dead. And my thing is like, what mark do you want to leave? Because 1 year ago, a lot of people would have been upset if I had died. And it'd have been like, that guy upset at this club that saved my life. My kids would have been upset, but they wouldn't have had many memories with their dad. They'd have been on some nice holidays, but day to day, Dad was on his phone a lot. Dad was like always busy. Yeah, you know, and even though they're young, they might have been like, oh, it's nice what he's built. But what about me? I notice, I see it with like people on a different scale than me. I watch a lot of documentaries and I judge them now. So I watched one on Kevin Hart, I watched one on Muhammad Ali, and they were really powerful with what they've achieved. And I'm not even comparing myself at all to them, not even iota. But the way the kids judge them. And Kevin Hart, they asked his daughter a question. They says, is it hard, your dad being away? And she said, no, I'm used to it now. I'm used to never seeing him now. Something like that. I thought, is him striving to be a billionaire really actually successful? Is him making the world laugh really successful if you don't make your own world laugh? And that's the thing for me. It's getting a balance between giving yourself to the world, but never letting your world not have you.
Amazing. I think that's probably an ideal place to finish it there, mate, on that note. But yeah, you're a prime example of, obviously it's a terrible situation for a lot of people, this lockdown, but you've chosen to use it to your advantage and kind of reconnect with yourself and just, you know, just focus on the things that actually matter to you in your life. So I think that's quite a big lesson to take away from that, to be honest. But yeah, Luke, it's been a pleasure, my friend.
Yes.
I'll see you boys, well, obviously in a minute, but at 5:30 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
5:30.
Just before we go, mate, can you just tell people where they can connect with yourself if they want to get in touch?
Luke Ambler UK on any social media channels, or lukeambler.co.uk on my website, which will be getting a little bit of a revamp anytime now. So that'll be getting launched. So there'll be bits on there about the Mind Tribe and how to join that inner circle. And a lot of other stuff, cool stuff that's coming. It's all going to be based purely around what's in between his ears.
Right. Cool. Brilliant, matey. Thank you.
Thanks very much, boys.
Top man. Speak to you soon, bud.
See you later.
Thanks for listening to another inspiring self-made story, and we hope you enjoyed the show. We would be very grateful if you could kindly leave us a review, as it will help us impact a wider audience. You can do this on iTunes, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you want to reach out on the socials, find us across all platforms using @the Self-Made Minds Podcast. See you next time, and happy success making.